Mr. Grech Mintoff, candidate MEP elections on behalf of Alleanza Bidla. Before I delve into the issue to whether you'll be resigning or not from the adoptions board, since the family minister yesterday called on those individuals who sit on the board to resign if they do not agree that same-sex couples should adopt, and you are one of those individuals who openly spoke out against the issue, I have a document in hand sent by EU top-ranking officials to the Broadcasting Authority earlier this week, and which also concerns the party you represent, warning that if TV and radio stations do not allocate the stipulated airtime to all parties as part of the MEP election campaign, they would look into whether the campaign was a legitimate one. What is your reaction to the latest development?
First of all, I'm very glad that you managed to get your hands on this very important document. What this document is saying, the background of this document is basically that the Public Broadcasting Authority has written to all TV and radio stations 4 times to give minority parties like us the right to voice our manifest and our suggestions as to how Europe and Malta should be in a stronger position. Every Super One, Net TV and all these stations have not given us any radio or TV coverage against the law, and the EU has stepped in at this stage, it seems, to make sure that this breaking of the law does not continue. It's a huge shame that the EU has to step in such a way, and they're not only saying that they are breaking the law, but they're also calling into effect whether the legitimacy of the elections is correct. It means that they are seriously worried about democracy in Malta presently. We've been saying it all along that both parties seem to be breaking the law as and when they wish without impunity. This letter confirms it. This letter, I believe, has been written by 27 MEPs, high-ranking MEPs in Europe, and some of them are even within the same groups, the PPP and the SND, which the Labour Party and the Nationalist Party are part of, which shows that even their own colleagues are concerned with democracy in Malta and how what we've been saying all along is a huge joke, that on one hand we have parties baying for minority parties, minority groups, and yet at the same time in their own political arena they are not allowing minority groups to speak up. So this is all very wrong and very much of concern when Malta is being exposed like this within the EU itself. It shows that both parties are not democratic and not as prone for minorities as much as they wish.
You highlighted political stations. What about the National Broadcasting Station,
right.
TVM?
The National Broadcasting Station has given us 2 debating slots. We keep asking them for us to be able to debate with the PN and the PL, so that we can come up with serious issues, we can challenge them as to where they are breaking the law, including the Lisbon Treaty, including Partnership for Peace, including other issues which affect us directly and which we believe that both parties have broken the Constitution of Malta. They keep refusing our challenges to discuss openly in a full matter, and they are obviously not allowing our message to be broadcast to the general public.
So basically Alleanza Bidla is being discriminated against?
Absolutely 100%.
Let's go back to the issue.
It's not just us saying it, it's now even the EU itself saying it.
Back to the adoptions board. As I said earlier, the minister called for the resignation of those who sit on the board and who are against same-sex couples adopting. As chairman of the adoptions board, will you be taking up the request of the minister and resigning?
Okay, let's get some facts clarified, because everybody's with their own agendas is saying that we have said one thing, I have said one thing or another. I cannot comment what happens within the adoption board itself. That is something which even the ministry has tied our hands up with, rightly so, that we don't comment. Even though other individuals and groups and boards have had the right to discuss, even on TV and public, etc., about gay adoption, we have been prevented to do that. What I have talked about is not what happens within the adoption board or whether we accept gay adoptions or not. That is the board's decision, not mine. What we have talked about is how, through EU imposition, the LGBT adoption process has been dovetailed in a very disgusting way, I will maintain, into the civil union law.
So the government succumb to EU pressure?
Absolutely. What I have said is that the government should not have accepted the reports presented, the single report presented to it in the Parliament, not just the government but also the opposition. So this is not a one-sided comment, it's a comment on all the parliamentarians. They should not have accepted the report presented to the single report presented to them by the expert, by the single expert. There should have been more experts and more reports for their perusal. That report itself is not a complete report, not a scientific report, and should not have been accepted. And the general public should be aware that the present Parliament is making such decisions in a rushed way only in order to accommodate the EU rather than to accommodate the general public.
Can Malta unravel the Lisbon Treaty, and how?
Absolutely. We have been up to the EU, we have spoken to several different groups. We have their backing, four different groups that are not federalists but anti-federalists, that I believe will be in the majority of the Parliament in 2 weeks' time, have seen our propositions. We have discussed it with their own barristers, we have discussed it, and they all agree that Malta has a key in its hand. We have the key in its hand to unravel the Lisbon Treaty and for all of Europe to go into a much needed new direction. It's not just, again, it's not just us saying this. There are the 40% presently, which I believe will be more than 50% in 2 weeks' time. There are unions, there are 60 million workers. Everybody's saying it's time for a change. We cannot stay in austerity. We need a more social Europe. And both parties, unfortunately, are stuck in federalistic, one-size-fits-all, no matter what they say, one-size-fits-all, federalistic, failed road, which should be changed.
If you were to give a percentage of what Malta says in terms of the Treaty of Lisbon, what would it be?
I'm sorry.
I mean, a percentage of Malta say.
Okay.
You know,
it's there. Everybody can see it. The Lisbon Treaty has given Malta no right to say. We don't have a right to say no to any law. We have no veto, and we have 0.1% say in all laws passed. Obviously, we were promised to be a partner in this EU venture. A partner does not have no say in matters. A partner does not have 0.1 say in matters. So everything is imposed on Malta, and we want to change that.
How would the treaty be unravelled?
The treaty will be unravelled by a very simple process. We can expand it at this stage, but it basically has to do with the Lisbon Treaty being against the Constitution of Malta. It breaks the Constitution of Malta. We believe we have enough proof to show that. We have judges in the European Court itself agreeing that the Lisbon Treaty breaks the Maltese Constitution.